South Park 64. Where do I start with this game? It's rude, it's crude, and it's for an adult audience that requires a complex understanding of the geopolitical climate in 1998. And of course, fart jokes. Can't forget them fart jokes. Honestly, a very interesting first-person shooter, and a game that was hard for me to get into at first, but its crudeness and its adult humor really hooked me in. Developed by Iguana and published by Acclaim, this was the first South Park game adaptation based off the long-running 1997 animated series of the same name. The reviews I've read, I think, were being very critical and quite negative towards the game. Mainly the graphics, visuals and bad acting were sticking points to critics. However, this seems to have been addressed, as I objectively feel the best version of the game was on the Nintendo 64. And the graphics and the sound in the game were delivered better overall, in my opinion. You start off as the 4 playable characters in the main story: Kyle, Cartman, Stan and Kenny. There are several other characters from the show, such as Chef, who guides you along the way, and many more that you meet along the story, such as Jimbo, Big Gael and Ned. Chef gives you most of the mission briefs, with some guest appearances from other characters. Going more into the details about the game, the story mode felt like an episode of the show, starting off on an ominous story about a comet plunging towards the Earth, wreaking havoc and causing all sorts of nonsense, topped off with normal everyday things such as aliens and turkeys, invasions and whatnot, just your everyday normal stuff, right? Honestly, some of the things that I liked that they put in there was like the Trapper Keeper episode, which was similar to the South Park episode where Cartman gets turned into a giant blob. And this is a boss level that they created, which I liked. However, sometimes the story mode, the map wasn't very clear on where you needed to go, and it was very easy to accidentally backtrack or get lost before eventually figuring out where you needed to go. And to me, that's frustrating. I ended up getting stuck at one point for half an hour going around in circles, almost like Misty Hanky going around in a friggin' toilet bowl. Honestly, I believe that can put off any patient player, and a way to fix this could have easily been to put an arrow on the minimap or something like that. There is a multiplayer mode, and this seems to come out of nowhere, and honestly it was a lot of fun. You could have some giggles, play against your friends with multiple maps, lots of ammo to boot, but unfortunately the game would get old fast. I found myself wanting to play games like GoldenEye or Perfect Dark, as I felt that these were just more enjoyable. For example, in GoldenEye, you can play as Oddjob, and who doesn't like being the short guy? And in Perfect Dark, you can add in AI. Some honest missed opportunities here to make each character feel unique and different. Gameplay in both single player and multiplayer was very straightforward. You start off with snowballs and things only ramp up from there. You certainly had lots of weapons to choose from, ranging from dodgeballs to Terrence and Phillip fart dolls, and even a cow launcher. What were they smoking when they thought of that? You also had power-ups and collectibles like you do for any first-person shooter of this era, and this ranged from Cheesy Poofs, a cheese-flavoured snack that acted like a health pack, which is bizarre because cheese snacks aren't healthy for you. And there were some other unique power-ups like Mr. Hanky the Christmas Poo that acted like a protective barrier, and that would be great if you were swarmed by enemies, but the downside to these is that they were limited and hard to find. Controls-wise, I felt South Park 64 to be a little bit clunky, because compared with GoldenEye or Perfect Dark, which had auto-aim feature, you had to aim using the C-stick controls, and if you go up or down a hill, you have to re-aim your shot, maneuver your controller in order to line it up, and this made it feel really uncomfortable. You had to leave yourself vulnerable to being attacked by a Terrence and Phillip fart doll, or being attacked by a swarm of turkeys, which is honestly frustrating. And I personally felt that this part of the game was rushed, and the mini-maps and the controls could have been handled far better, as I mentioned previously. The maps and the details of the game were gorgeous and vibrant. It felt amazing being able to actually explore South Park for the first time in an almost open world feeling. And while you are strolling through a lot of snow, they do let you explore the town of South Park, which I honestly thought was a captivating and enjoyable touch. For the sound and the audio, they did a really good job of bleeping out the swear words, such as fuck or shit, which I think these days are no longer need to be censored. Especially, it's funny hearing these words bleeped out of the children's mouths, because that was the whole appeal of South Park, am I right? The game could be played by a younger audience, even though it wasn't targeted for such an audience, and the game is on the Nintendo 64. Censorship was a massive thing in the 90s. For example, look at how they censored the blood in Mortal Kombat. You know, the jokes and the punchlines do eventually get monotonous and repetitive fast, and makes you wish there was a way to turn them off. Kind of felt like I wanted to bang my head against a brick wall every time I heard Cartman say "yay cheesy poofs." Overall, I don't think South Park 64 is a bad game. Is it a great game? Well, that's debatable, but it's not the worst game I've ever played. I mean, it's no Superman 64, am I right? Which is an absolute disaster of a game, and any critic will agree with me here. It's a fun enough game to pick up and play, and maybe have some old school classic South Park humor thrown in. Some jokes, some fart sounds, and even if they're overly repeated, it is worth buying in my opinion. Honestly though, I'd rather pick up a copy of Perfect Dark or GoldenEye, but I feel you should at least give this a fair go, especially if you're a fan of the classic South Park. You'll definitely love this. So that's my final thoughts on South Park 64. Some positives, some negatives, and no strong feelings either way. I mean, I liked the game enough to want to see what silly antics that they were going to throw in next, what was coming up on the story, and play it all the way through. And what really hooked me in is that you didn't really have much of an idea as to where the story was going to go next. So please, leave your comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback on this game. Like and subscribe and smash that like button. Or hit that bell. Heck, hit them both, I don't care. And as always, stay safe, stay awesome, stay splashtastic. Magnus out.